Welcome back, everybody, to the D.O.G podcast. As always, I'm Drew with German and OC, and today we're going to recap a little bit of the NFL.
So have you guys been keeping up with all these trades lately? And the trade deadline was Tuesday, was yesterday. OC, you're the guy I want to ask first and foremost, dude. The Miami Dolphins chasing Bradley Chubb. What do you think, man?
I texted Drew right when or he texted me, and at
Uh,
first I was like, Miami didn't need to do anything, Like I was kind of like they're fine, they can chug along just how they're doing
mm-hmm.
with whatever they have. But then I started to like kind of look into like all the trades they were making, and then I was like, oh, this is a specific trade. Like you've seen this the last couple of years. Last year when the Rams went and got Von
Right.
Miller, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
it's the pass rusher, right, that you're gonna need in the
Mm-hmm.
playoffs. That way your DBs don't have to cover as long.
Right.
So my thought process was after reading everything, they went and got Bradley Chubb because they know to win or to be successful. If you want to win a Super Bowl, you're gonna have to have a pass rusher to get to Mahomes or to Allen, somebody,
Right.
because you don't want your DBs covering for 10, 15 seconds. So that was my biggest takeaway.
Mm. That's what I was going to ask you. So do you think it was specific to the fact that they have Josh Allen twice on their schedule every year, and that they're going to have Kansas City eventually in the playoffs if it comes to that? Like it's going to be like those two teams who you got to put pressure on that quarterback. And with if you don't put pressure on those quarterbacks, I mean they're going to make plays left and right. Do you think it was that specific of a trade?
Yeah, because I think they they saw the blueprint from the Rams last year, how they had interior pressure already, but they went and got an edge rusher, right? Somebody that could
Mm-hmm.
filter all the quarterback moving back inside to their D tackles. So I think that's why they
Mm-hmm.
went and got Bradley Chubb. Because I was sitting there like he's on an expiring deal. It's the last year of his contract. Why would you go do this?
Right.
It's like, but I think Miami's all in on Tua. They're
Mm-hmm.
all in on just trying to make a run right now. So I think that's why they went and got Chubb.
Do you think? Why do you think Denver was like so willing to make that deal? Do you think they were just okay with just Bradley Chubb leaving, and they were looking maybe at the big contract, maybe Russell Wilson taking up all that cap space? Drew, what do you think?
Yes.
I think they got to clear out cap space if they want to help Russell Wilson out. You kind of got to
Mm-hmm.
look at it as like Russ needs some help, right? Whether it's some better offensive linemen, some better weapons, or something. Russ needs help, and he's not going to get any help with a defensive guy taking a big hit on the salary cap. So they got to dump some money,
Mm-hmm.
and then who they dumped him off to probably won't bite him in the ass in Miami. Very looks unlikely like Denver's even going to make the playoffs this year.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I think it's just a big salary cap dump.
OC, do you see it in a different way? Do you think like Denver's trying to make moves to help Russ, or they're just trying to recoup what they lost, given what they gave up for Russell?
I think they're just pretty much at this point selling on the season. So they're trying to, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, recoup something out of what
Mm-hmm.
they got or what little they got out of the deal with Russ.
Yeah.
And then, like Andrew said, you probably don't want to pay Chubb, or they didn't want to pay Chubb because they have
Mm-hmm.
to spend on Justin Simmons, who's their All-Pro safety,
Right.
Patrick Sertan in about 2 more years because he's going to
Mm-hmm.
want a restructured deal with how good he's playing at DB.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know, maybe if you keep Jerry Judy, he's gonna want money eventually. So you
I
have to
heard
have money available.
right because I heard something that even Jerry Judy was on the trading block. I heard. I mean, there were just rumors this week, but I heard a bunch of rumors had the Broncos lost to the Jaguars that they were going to just start selling, and I think Bradley Chubb was one of them, and then Jerry Judy was another one. You think there's any backing with those rumors, OC?
Yeah, you see that like there's teams that obviously like were buyers. So Miami was a buyer.
Yeah.
The Ravens bought. They went and got Roquan Smith. The Vikings went and got Hawkinson. Like all these teams
Yeah.
that are in the playoff mix, buying, which is you see the difference with Chicago and Denver though, how they went
Yeah.
and sold. So they sold Chicago sold their best defensive guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
With Roquan Smith. Denver sold their best pass rusher with Chubb.
Right.
So I mean, I guess if you're out of the mix, you're pretty much selling,
Right. And then the other one I wanted to ask you, OC, about of Jeff Wilson. Well, they gave up Chase Edmonds, right, to go to Denver for Bradley Chubb, and they pick up on Jeff Wilson, who the Niners were looking to sell after they acquired Christian McCaffrey. Do you think he'll be a good scheme fit, or just Mike McDaniel's was just looking at the running backs he knew from San Francisco and just said, "Screw it, we'll get another one."
It's the San Francisco Dolphins, bro. Come on,
Right?
my he's bringing River Craycraft. He brought
Yeah.
Trent Sherfield. He brought Mostert, and now he's got Jeff Wilson Jr.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like eventually, Mostert's gonna go down with an injury at some point,
Right.
sadly,
Mm-hmm.
and Jeff Wilson's a great guy to step in as he did for Elijah Mitchell before Christian McCaffrey came back up. But yeah, I mean he's getting guys he's familiar with, guys that have ran his system already in San Francisco. So it's a decent pickup. I mean, what they give up like a fifth rounder for him, so it wasn't
Yeah, fifth round.
it wasn't much. Miami's pretty much saying screw the picks. I mean, they got him
Just
from
like
the Trey
everybody
Lance
else.
deal.
Huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they got him from the Trey Lance deal anyways. So
Yeah. Are they all in on Tua then? Is that safe to say?
for sure,
should be.
for sure.
Drew, what do you think? What do you see Miami making all these moves? Are they just going to go ahead and like OC just said, they're buyers because they're on that edge of making the playoffs?
Yeah, I think so. I think we talked about it last week, right? It's going to come down to probably the Dolphins and the Jets on who's going to get that wild card spot. And
Right.
I mean, what better time than now? I mean, you got Tua, who's playing really well. You got Tyreek Hill. You got these boys. Waddle's having a great season. Make a run now. Why not? Spend some money and do it. Make sure that you get that solidified spot. What is interesting that we talked about a little bit with the potential matchup, right, in the playoffs. I think maybe if the season ended today, the Dolphins would be up against the Ravens or the Titans,
Yeah.
right? So that pass rush really sets in their favor.
That's what I wanted to ask you too. So they picked up on Roquan Smith from Chicago because it looked like Chicago, like OC said earlier, they're kind of the guys that are sellers. Do you think that's a good pickup? Do you think that'll set their defense over the edge?
No,
No.
I don't think so.
Why
because
not?
I told Andrew and the guys and the other some of my buddies, I'm like, these guys, the Ravens' biggest problem was covering. Like you brought in a tackler, great, but you needed DBs to cover, and that's what they've been exposed with. When the Giants came back on them, the Dolphins came back on them. It's their back end,
Right.
it's their DBs and safeties that were getting exposed. So I mean, maybe they got better at tackling, but they didn't help out their coverage.
Right. Drew, so we were talking earlier, remember about Chase Claypool and how he's went over to Chicago. Did that trade surprise you at all, or do you kind of think that was a good move?
It's kind of interesting because that move kind of makes me think that they're buyers, but they also traded their defensive guys this season, right?
Yeah.
So I like the move only because I think Justin Fields is this close to actually being a pretty good quarterback in the NFL. He's got pretty good protection in the pocket. He's got, like we talked about, he's got the best rush game in the NFL, right? That tandem running back, and then included Justin Fields himself. They put up 200 something yards on the Cowboys. They're leading the league in yards per game. This purchase of Claypool leads me to believe that you're buying weapons for Fields, but at the same time they're selling their defense away. So it's kind of weird because you're either a seller or you're a buyer, and they're kind of like half and half. That doesn't make any sense to me. I think if they would have beat the Cowboys, they would have been just buyers. I think that they would have kept Roquan Smith, and they would have gone after Claypool or maybe even a different receiver and made a push. Since they still play the Vikings one more time, they probably would have tried to make a run at the division.
Right.
But I do like the Claypool move. He's not a super elite. He's pretty good. I think it worked out, like you said, for both parties. Pittsburgh can kind of get rid of him because they got some young guys that are just as good, if not better. And Claypool's better than anyone Chicago has already.
I mean, yeah, I think it's a good move, definitely for the Steelers. For Chicago, really not that much. I mean, okay, they give around they give away a second round pick, but eventually they're going to probably have to pay him. He's probably maybe that's what they were wanting, where that's what he was wanting over at Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh already kind of knows how to run the table with receivers that want to get paid or running backs that
Mm-hmm.
want to get paid. They just
Get
ship
rid of
them
him.
out. Yeah, and I think maybe this had to do a little bit with like the Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell situation where they feel like the maturity kind of rear its ugly head, and the superstardom. I think that's what they saw with Juju, what they saw with Claypool, and then the Steelers are super awesome at drafting receivers. They know how to pick them over at the draft, so I think it was a good move for them. Chicago, not so much. I think Chicago kind of just fell for the bait. I felt like they saw a big receiver, big body, who's he's got all the mechanics that are there, but I don't think the big playability is consistent enough to be worthy of a number one receiver. What do you think,
Mm-hmm.
OC? What do you think about the pick or about the trade?
Claypool to Chicago.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I think like Drew said, like that rushing attack has been really good lately.
Mm-hmm.
But I was reading up on how Justin Fields is like these last like couple weeks. He's been like the second best like fantasy quarterback also. So
Because of all the
the
yards he
dude's
gets
like
on the ground too.
yeah. So the
Yeah.
the dude is figuring it out. So that offense was incompetent for about a month and a half, and then I think it was that New England game on Monday night a couple weeks ago. He just like I don't know. They let him have the reins.
Right.
They opened up the offense for him, and it's just you see the talent there. Like they're finally letting him do what he does best, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe now getting Claypool, which he's been struggling right these last couple years.
Yeah.
But now that he has Claypool, maybe it'll open it up for Darnell Mooney as well as Cole Kmet. So we'll
Right.
see, you know, because Darnell Mooney's a really good receiver, but he can't do everything out of the slot by himself. So now maybe Claypool gets a little bit more attention and he's able to expand his role in that offense.
Hmm. What else? What do guys think about the Hawkinson trade from Detroit uh, to Minnesota? Do you think it was a wise move by Detroit to go ahead and make that trade over to Minnesota, who's already kind of have a crowded offense?
I don't like when teams in the same division trade to each other. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
really weird. But with that being said, I mean TJ Hawkinson, he's got a lot of upside, and we've seen him play really really well.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've also seen him be like a ghost out there, where he's nowhere to be found.
Mm-hmm.
It probably has a lot to do with the fact that he's in Detroit, and their offense is very up and down, very roller coaster like.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Detroit's way of getting rid of someone who's probably going to need to get paid pretty soon. I don't think it makes the Minnesota Vikings that much better, in my opinion. I think that they were good, and I still think that they're good. They're not great now with that.
At this point, do you guys think that Detroit and Minnesota are kind of just working together just to make sure Green Bay doesn't win the division? Like, do you think maybe that's their thinking or their logic? They're like, we're just tired of Green Bay winning
In all
anything.
fairness, if the Vikings don't win this division, even before the Hawkinson trade, that's one of the biggest chokes. Aaron
Right.
Rodgers is having one of his worst
Mm-hmm.
seasons ever, and is what like 3 games back, I think.
Yeah.
If you
Mm-hmm.
can't hold off Aaron Rodgers for the second half of the season with a 3 game lead, that's on you.
Um, Another team I wanted to talk about were the Packers. Were you guys surprised at all that they didn't make any trades?
No, the
No.
season's over.
Mm. You think they're good? They're already kind of just chopping it up and then just seeing whatever happens for the rest of the year. OC, what do you think?
But I mean, they have this aura about them where they're the type of team that is never gonna make deals. They're gonna draft guys. They're gonna find free agents, and
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna build that way. You know, it's the only team that doesn't have an NFL owner, right? So it's
Right.
like they do things their own way, and they're stubborn
Mm-hmm.
about it, and they've had success for years, right? So, but now you you're really stuck in a bind, right? Because now you don't have really any weapons for Rodgers, right? Ever since
Mm-hmm.
Devontae left, your guys are getting hurt. Your receivers like Lazard, he was out this past week,
Mm-hmm.
and you're kind of just piecing guys together, and it's it's not good. So
Yeah. Do you think?
I
Do you
think
think they?
they kind of did it to themselves.
Do you think they were kind of fraudulent the past couple years? No, I wouldn't say fraudulent, but I mean, do you guys think maybe their records were inflated a little bit because they were such a weak division? I mean, they would go in and then just run the table on all three teams in their division. You know, neither team would actually like contest against them. Do you think maybe that's why their record was a little bit higher? And then once we see them get into the playoffs, they struggle against really good teams. Do you think that had something to do with it?
I feel like this is almost this identical Vikings team that we've seen the last couple of years, and the Vikings weren't that good last year. Um,
Mm-hmm.
what they added uh, on the defensive end, Alexander Smith from Green Bay, right? This last offseason, he's
Right.
tearing it up. Um, Chicago, I mean, I think they're in a upwards trend right
Mm-hmm.
now. But I mean, they made the playoffs what 3 years ago was the double doink.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that really like it's the weak division because I feel like there's these a lot of the same guys are still there. I think that the Packers were just good. Aaron Rodgers had some proficient weapons out there. I mean, he had Devonte Adams. Let's not ignore the fact that Devonte Adams
Right.
is. I mean, he's not playing well this year, but I mean, when he was with Aaron Rodgers, he was a top five receiver in the NFL every single year.
OC, what do you think?
I just think it's a detriment to the way they have kind of neglected the offense over the years for Aaron
Mm-hmm.
Rodgers. They kind of just relied on his talent and his talent alone, right? Even
Mm-hmm.
Devontae was a mid second round pick. You know, like
Right.
they never. I don't think they ever have drafted a wide receiver in the first round.
Right. They didn't
And
go
Not
after
not
him. He just
not in
fell to
Aaron
them.
Rodgers era.
Right.
no, and not in Rodgers' era. And like they kind of just said, well, here, if you're that good, then you'll win with anybody, you know? And I think now you're starting to see kind of the wheels come off, you know, because
Mm-hmm.
maybe Devontae did hide a lot of their deficiencies, you know? And it created like opportunities for other guys, right? Because you had so
Mm-hmm.
much attention going to him that other guys got to shine. And I mean, they still have a decent running game with Aaron Jones, but other than that, like their receivers haven't been anything close to being
Mm-hmm.
like relatively like good.
What do you guys think it is with Green Bay? They just don't have. Is it maybe because of they don't have an owner that kind of pushes them to make those blockbuster trades, or is it just the way they do business in Green Bay?
It's
What
the
do you
way
guys
they do
think?
business.
Mm-hmm.
The way
That's what
they
it
do
seems like.
business that
Mm-hmm.
they do things their way. They think they're better than everybody else. That's why they do things differently. So you don't
Mm-hmm.
see them make the big splashes, you know. You don't see them go after guys because they
Mm-hmm.
think they're good enough to build through the draft and through
Right.
free agency.
Do you guys think, man, Rogers was just that good to where the combination of him and Adams kind of band-aided a lot of their issues that they had for the past couple of years? What do you guys think?
Repeat that question one more time.
I was like, do you guys think that Rogers and Adams were just that good of a combination to where it blanketed like a lot of their issues that they've had for the past few years?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I
Mm,
mean, Aaron Rodgers won MVPs. And what 2 years ago he was MVP.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I think Aaron Rodgers in his prime was is one of the
Mm,
best, right?
right.
Devonte Adams, like we talked about with Aaron Rodgers, top five receiver every single year. I mean,
Mm,
those are two guys that you can say, "Hey, put the team on your back and get us to where we need to go."
mm,
He's always had an above average defense, right? Green Bay has
mm,
always thrived on having a pretty good defense. So
right.
with a pretty good defense, an MVP quarterback, and a top five receiver with every year they got a
Mm,
proficient running back, not an outstanding, not below basic, but proficient. They're getting
mm,
the job done. That's NFC title games. So I
right.
think yeah, with Aaron Rodgers and that Devonte Adams combination, they did it all.
Mm. Were you guys surprised at all that the Rams didn't make any moves coming up to the trade deadline?
Uh, a little bit only because they're like the division is still somewhat close.
Right.
And I still think that the Rams could potentially get that wild card spot because
Mm-hmm.
you have the NFC East, right? You got, and then
Mm-hmm.
you have the NFC West, a couple of teams out there, and then it just drops off the table in the NFC. Like
Right.
everyone else is doing pretty shitty. So I
Yeah.
thought, the Rams are still in contention.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but at the same time, they don't look good. Just because that they're still statistically in contention doesn't mean that they look good. Offensively, they look pretty shitty.
Maybe it has something to do with their offensive coordinator from last year now calling plays over at Minnesota, and maybe that has something to do with it. OC, what do you think? You surprised about the Rams?
Well, I mean, not really because, I mean, they pretty much sold all their picks, so they don't have much to play with, you know.
True.
So,
Mm-hmm.
it didn't surprise me just because I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
well, what do they have left to offer, you know, besides the players? And
Mm-hmm.
even the teams that tried to make a deal for to get Cam Akers on their team, the Rams ended up turning down those deals for Cam Akers.
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
I don't get the what's going on there because apparently he's healthy, but they don't want to play him
Mm-hmm.
and they don't want to trade him. So I don't understand. You
Right.
had the opportunity to get something in return for him and you didn't.
Mm-hmm. What about the Bucks? You guys surprised at all that the Bucks didn't try to make any moves? I mean, they're kind of sitting on the edge too. They can still make a run. Are you guys kind of surprised about that a little bit?
I am, yeah, because they're still a game and a half back in the division.
Yeah.
That division could be a lot like what the NFC East was a couple of years ago, where a team with a losing record gets into the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I am. I would think that you got Tom Brady on your team.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Brady's gonna want some change, right? Because he's not satisfied with the way that the team is
Right.
going. So yeah, I am. Unless Tom Brady is saying, "Hey, let me call my buddy Gronk and bring him out of retirement for the third time."
Right. OC, what do you think? You surprised that Tom didn't try to find some reinforcements this offseason or this to this trade deadline?
I'm surprised they didn't try to go after Roquan Smith after
Right.
their linebacker Shaquille Barrett tore his
Mm-hmm.
Achilles.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one that I thought like, well, maybe they'll try to help him out defensively, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess to their credit, the defense is pretty decent, you know. Um,
Yeah.
and supposedly they're gonna get their center Ryan Jensen back in December at
Mm-hmm.
some point. So maybe they're just content, or maybe the price was too high for what they were trying to get. Because I know a lot of
Maybe.
teams were inquiring about Brandon Cooks, and he didn't get dealt. So I wonder what's gonna happen with him if he's gonna get released or not.
Well, from what I heard, the Texans kind of had a hard time trying to find a suitor for him because of his contract. I guess that his contract was way too much that a lot of teams didn't want to take on, and he's already. I mean, he's kind of going to like the ender part of his career. I mean, he's already
He's older.
29. Yeah, and it's kind of weird that Brandon Cooks was kind of just traded all around the league when I felt like he could have been a really good number one receiver, and he kind of just ended up going all over the place. Were you guys
Dude,
surprised at all? Go
Brandon
ahead.
Cooks in New Orleans, like that dude was a stud.
Right.
So yeah, I kind of am like I every year you kind of see Cooks is on this team now, Cooks is on that team
Yeah.
now. And it's like I remember just like 4 years ago, Cooks was one of the dudes. I mean, you had Michael Thomas, Brandon Cooks, and those dudes were tearing it up.
Right.
I thought the Cowboys might have made a move for him, but no.
Are you
Well,
surprised at all that the Cowboys didn't make any moves at all?
They did. They made before the deadline. They made the one
Yeah.
move for Hankins. I keep forgetting this
Yeah.
guy's name. Um, but I think the only move that they're really looking out for is probably OBJ in free agency.
Right.
I thought maybe they go after a corner because Anthony Brown's getting toasted across from Devontae or Trayvon Diggs.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't really do that. I'm kind of okay with them not making any moves, especially with the way the offense played against the Bears. They really only had one receiver, and they did pretty well. So I wasn't really too surprised.
Mm-hmm. Are you guys surprised at all by the year that the Raiders are having? I
Yes.
I mean we not a lot of people saw that coming. What did you guys expect out of the Raiders this year?
Well, I think I've said it so many times on this podcast that I expected the Raiders to do really, really well with Derek Carr and Devontae Adams. I don't know. It just seems like their problem is a head coach thing, because they had what's the intern's name from last year? The Italian name guy.
Bisaccia.
Maybe Bisacci, yeah, something like that.
That dude like rallied the troops together, right, and made a run and then make the playoffs. You have a very identical team to last year. Plus, you add a star receiver, and now your team's worse again. So it went from not doing great with Chucky. Bisaccia comes in, you figure it out, and then you do well. You get rid of him, and you move on to a new coach, and you start doing shitty again. So I don't know. It just seems maybe it's a head coach thing. Maybe it's a chemistry thing. I'm not too sure, honestly.
OC, at this point, what do you think the Raiders do? Is it time to fire Josh McDaniels, or do you ride it out with him for the rest of the year?
I mean, I think you got to write it out. You got to give him a shot. You know, like going 8 games halfway through the season, and I know it hasn't worked out, but I mean, there was a lot of high expectations on them, right? But if you think about it, their roster's not that good. Aside from their skilled positions, that O line is near the bottom of the league.
Right.
That D line, that defense besides Max Crosby, is pretty much at the bottom of the depth chart.
Right.
You know, they're not really good besides Max Crosby. Their DBs aren't good. Their linebacking core is not good. So, I mean, like Drew said, like last year, that the special teams coordinator rallied the troops and got them into the playoffs, and you know, he has a little bit of mojo, and then they kicked him to the curb for you know, another Bill Belichick disciple that doesn't look like it's panning out.
And it's his second go at it, because this is kind of similar to what happened to him over at Denver, right?
This is probably his last chance.
You think it's his last chance? You think? I don't
Probably. I think some people are just meant to be coordinators, right? Or assistant coaches, and some people are meant to be head coaches.
Right.
You get multiple opportunities and you fail. I don't know. I think he finishes the season. I think that they give him one more season after this, and then after that, if they don't do well again next year, you get rid of him, and you probably get rid of Derek Carr.
That's what I was going to ask you guys. Well, do you guys think maybe Derek Carr has something to do with it? I mean, you have a bad offensive line, but you also surrounded by all kinds of weapons, right? Do you think maybe Carr has to take a little bit of the blame for how their offense isn't producing this year?
When you get shut out by the Saints, who is starting Andy Dalton at quarterback, yeah, you can't get shut out by the Saints. If you lose, that's one thing. But I mean, if you're losing like 40-35, it's like, all right, well, Derek Carr did what Derek Carr needed to do to win the game. Like OC said, the defense is just shit. But Derek Carr's not doing that. He put up 0 points in New Orleans. You got to do better than that. You got Devontae Adams. You got Josh Jacobs. You got Waller. You got Renfro. You got offensive weapons. You got to score.
OC, what do you think? You think it's time for Carr to see the door?
I mean, yeah, there's been a lot of Raider fans that have been calling that for the last couple of years.
A lot.
But I think he's going to be able to hold on to the reins just for the simple fact that he got his boy to Vegas, you know?
Right.
So that's going to be an interesting ordeal watching them play out, because they obviously want to play together, right? They're best buds.
But I mean,
if Derek's stinking up the bed, you got to think about moving him, right?
Yeah, because because even you go to the deal with Devontae going to Las Vegas. I mean, yeah, you can kind of say that his best bud was the one that kind of drove him there, but also, I mean, it doesn't hurt that the paycheck that he got. It also, Devontae also grew up as a Raider fan, and he's from the West Coast, so it brings him closer to home. I mean, it looked like maybe he's been trying to get out of Green Bay maybe for a little while now. It just seemed like a good business decision overall with Devontae, right? Especially with the big paycheck. And I don't think Carr is enough to actually take him over the edge. And if he leaves, where does he go? Does he become a starter somewhere else, or does he go and become a backup? What do you guys think?
I mean, I think he can start somewhere else. I mean, who they starting in Carolina this week? What's that?
Knows.
Walker?
Yeah,
I mean,
kid.
Boy,
Yeah.
PJ Walker, bro, come on.
Yeah, he can start. He can start in Carolina. He can probably. Shit, he could probably start for the Jags. Honestly, I don't. Trevor Lawrence is on a decent right now.
He'd
Um,
probably start for the Jets, bro. Justin or
hey,
what's his
he
name?
might be able to start for Denver next year. I don't know, man. Uh,
Mm.
I think I've spoken highly of Derek Carr, um, and I think Derek Carr can still probably win playoff games. I don't know if he can win the Super Bowl, um, but I think he can be a starter somewhere. And I don't know. Maybe the Raiders stick with him. I know,
Mm.
like you said, a lot of Raider fans have been calling for Derek Carr's head. I like him. I think he's worth it.
Mm. And then when you're at this point of what have the Raiders kind of put together here, do you really just start over with a brand new guy, or are they one of the teams next year that make a big splash in the offseason and try to go after somebody? Do you guys see that happening at all?
I don't know what their cap space is like, but I mean, OC pointed out pretty clearly they got to get defensive guys, right? They got all the offensive weapons that they need.
Mm.
You either sharpen up that O line and you have to figure out ways to win the games 42 to
Right.
48 or something like that, or you spend some money on that defense.
Mm. OC, what do you think?
Uh, there's gonna be a lot of like targets that they can go and piece together defensively, but
Mm.
at the end of the day, you can only be as good as your quarterback is. So if Derek
Mm.
can't figure this out, this thing like by the end of this year, like it's gonna be a rough go next year.
Right.
Like if they can't win, like at least like if they go like maybe 3-14 this year, you might see McDaniel's gone.
Mm.
Um, I can see that happening just because
Mm.
they're impatient and Mark Davis makes irrational decisions. So
Right.
I don't know, but next year, I think he's on a short leash for sure. If they
Mm.
can't figure something out, because I mean, you can bring in all the talent you want in the world, but at the end of the day, if you can't score points, you're not going to win football games.
Hmm.
Yeah. Enough said. Is there anything else you guys wanted to add? Any questions that you guys have? You guys can't think of anything right
Let's.
now.
No, I
How
don't think
long do
so.
the Eagles keep winning?
I mean,
They got a couple. They got a couple more weeks of winning, don't they?
their schedule doesn't look too bad for them. It's actually heavily in their favor.
Looks nice.
I mean, they're the next big test is definitely going to be in Dallas with a healthy Dak Prescott. I think
Let's
But
that's
see
that's
if
not
they
definitely the
until
got.
next
like
one.
what, late December?
Something like that.
That's
Yeah.
late December, right?
It's on Christmas Eve. It's gonna be a Merry
What
Christmas for
what
me.
Yeah, because
Okay,
they
so
have
this
the.
is their
talking it up, huh?
schedule. So, so they got tomorrow night. They got the Texans. Watch the Texans
Mm.
play. Spoiler. And then they host the Commanders on Monday night the following week. Then they're at the Colts. Then they host the Packers the Sunday after Thanksgiving. Then they host the Titans. Then on December 11th, they're at the Giants. December 18th, they're at the Bears. Then December 24th, they are at Dallas for a 125 game. Damn, that should be a night game.
I mean, there's.
Uh, then
Go
they
ahead.
finish the season. They finish the season off with the Saints on New Year's Day, and then last game of the season they host the Giants.
It's not a cakewalk, but definitely those games are definitely winnable for them. I mean, it's not going to be easy for sure because they're facing against some pretty awesome teams there, but there are teams that are at least beatable. You know, if it was like the Chiefs or the Bills, then it would be something else. But eh, they might make a run, man. Who knows? And then if they're healthy enough, Jalen Hurts is playing well enough going into the playoffs, and they have that first round bye. I mean, they very much can win out the conference in in the NFC. What do you guys think?
I mean, the ball's in their court, right? I mean, they have a 2 game lead over the Cowboys, and I think the Cowboys are probably the second best team right now in the conference,
Right.
and then statistically the Giants are the third. So,
The
and they have a
Vikings
2 game
are
lead over
too.
the Giants, huh?
The Vikings are up there too.
Oh yeah, I forgot
The
about the
The
Vikings.
Vikings are like 5-1
Um,
too, right?
I think they're 6-1.
Yeah,
I
they're
don't know.
behind
I
the
think
Eagles.
I'm
Yeah,
not
they're
sure.
6-1. Their one loss was to the Eagles, which didn't look that great for the Vikings either. Kirk Cousins did
Hmm.
not look good in that game. Um,
I don't know. It's the Eagles' division to lose. Really, it's. I mean,
mhm,
through the regular season, we're talking about like home field advantage and buys.
mhm.
It's their season to lose. I did see. I
I
saw
don't.
a funny post
I,
that it was like Jalen Hurts and he was getting sacked by like three Buccaneers, and it was like Jalen Hurts really gonna go 16-1 to have this happen to him week 2 of the playoffs.
Right. I mean, it
yeah, I don't
very
think
much high. Yeah. Go ahead.
in today's NFL, you probably can't win every single game, so they'll hiccup at some point, and I
Right.
Hmm.
think that's okay because you kind of need a loss to kind of just bring you back,
Mm.
instead of like coasting through the season. But I mean, to their credit, they're just it's not even close. Like they're putting it on everybody, and
Hmm.
Right.
and I think in all phases of their game. But at some point, like you kind of need that game to kind of just like kind of put you on your p's and q's going into the playoffs.
You need
Right.
the reality check.
Yeah,
Which
but
I think
I
I think
I mean
eventually they'll get
they're
into,
doing
right?
great.
Because I mean,
Yeah,
you look at a lot of the games; they've had some close games too. It's not like they've been winning every game, easily. Other than the Minnesota game, um, they've had some struggles. It's not like they've been the perfect team. And
Hmm.
looking at the rest of their schedule, there might be some hiccups. I still wouldn't put it past Green Bay to be able to come out with a win that game.
Hmm.
Also wouldn't put it past the Giants or Chicago and Dallas, and which
those
I mean,
divisional games are going to be the toughest for
for
sure.
sure, for sure. Uh, but like I said, they can make a run. They can make some stuff happen. What about the Vikings? Do you think the Vikings will have a hiccup eventually? Which I mean, they kind of did already against the Eagles.
I want to know how many more conference or divisional games they have. Okay, so they got the Commanders this week,
Mm-hmm.
then the Bills, then they host the Cowboys, Patriots, Jets, Lions, Colts, Giants, Packers, Bears. It seems like to
It's,
me
it's
like
pretty
this
similar to what
is
the Eagles have.
this is like their again it's their division to lose. They got to play the Packers one more time,
Mm-hmm.
the Bears one more time, and the Lions. So they've played each everyone in their conference already won or the
Mm-hmm.
division already once. So I think they have the upper hand with that,
Mm-hmm.
and you got to beat the Patriots that aren't doing that well. You got to beat the Jets, right?
Right.
You probably look at it too as you got to beat the Giants. Um, I think the ball's in their court, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't think they're really gonna choke until the playoffs. Then Kirk Cousins is gonna take over, and Kirk
Kirk Cousin
Cousins
does
gonna do
Kirk
Kirk
Cousin
Cousin
He's
things.
things.
gonna Kirk
Yep.
Cousins.
Yeah. Anything else you guys wanted to add, or you guys want to go ahead and get into the picks?
I'm gonna go ahead and get
Just
into the
picks.
picks.
Get into the picks. All right. Let me go ahead. Let me pull it up.
We
Let's
got
see.
Eagles at the Titans tomorrow.
No, Eagles at the Texans tomorrow.
That's what I meant. At the
Yeah,
Texans.
you were close. You were close enough.
We started with a
Uh,
T.
is there going to be a trap game this week, or you guys think it's going to be pretty straightforward, at least with this one?
I'd probably be pretty dumbfounded if they lost that game tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. So you're going to go Eagles?
I'm gonna go
OC?
Eagles.
Yeah, Eagles. Come on.
Eagles? Yeah, let's go ahead. Let's fly high with the
Die,
Eagles this
die
week.
Eagles, die.
The Sunday night game, which I think is going to probably be a good game. It's we have the Texans at the Chiefs.
The
That I
Titans
think
at the Chiefs.
you,
you
you had me
reversed it.
backwards. The Titans at the Chiefs, not the Texans. I'm still going to stick with the Chiefs. I don't think Tennessee's got what it takes to at least
They're in
contain
Kansas
Patrick
City. You said.
Mahomes. They're at Kansas City, yeah.
I'm gonna go with the Chiefs then.
Yeah. I'll see what you think.
Yeah. Come on, Andy
Chiefs.
Reid off a bye. Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's
not
go.
happening.
You're gonna need like a 220 all-purpose yard game from Derrick
Right.
Henry to win that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And let's go ahead. Let's close it off on the Monday night game with the Ravens at the Saints. Who you guys going with?
I'm gonna go with the Red Hot Saints.
I'm going to agree with you, and I'm actually going to go with the Saints too. I think the Saints they're looking pretty good. OC?
I'm going with my boy Lamar.
Lamar
him.
Jackson.
Big
him.
trust.
You guys think with those Ravens, do you think those trades are going to make any difference this week?
No,
No.
no.
Just like OC said, I mean, it's their problem is with the DBs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Watch out for Andy Dalton slinging it.
The Red Rocket. That's still my favorite highlights when he got knocked out against Washington.
You
That's
might
still
see
awesome
you
to
might
watch.
see like 2K13 Andy Dalton the Bengals come out just slinging that thing.
That'd be cool to see. Anything else you guys want to add? Or are you guys ready to close it out?
No, no,
And that's
straight
pretty
up.
much it, man. Other than the trades, it's not a very eventful weekend in the NFL.
No. Niners look good.
McCaffrey looked pretty good. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
did a lot better than I expected. But again, of course, the always the biggest question mark is what Jimmy G are we gonna get that week? Are we gonna get the Jimmy G that plays against the Rams during the regular season, or are we gonna get Jimmy G that plays against the Rams in the playoffs?
You know, when people not named Jimmy G throw touchdowns for the Niners, you guys do pretty good.
Shit, we just might as well have fucking McCaffrey play quarterback and Debo.
Or
I
Debo.
was gonna say he probably has a better. Christian McCaffrey has a better deep ball than Jimmy G.
Oh
so-
yeah, dude. Jimmy can't throw the deep ball. I mean, he lives in between the numbers. I think that's his skill set. He struggles trying to throw it outside the numbers, and that's where he gets into trouble. And it's honestly because he just doesn't have an arm. It's flat out. He's a lot more unathletic than I thought he would be.
The best thing that the Niners can do is get the ball out of Jimmy G's hands.
Yeah, and just give it to McCaffrey to throw it.
Give it to McCaffrey. Give me a jet sweep with Debo. Give me a screen with Debo. Something, Just get it out of Jimmy G's hands.
They might as well start running the wing T or the double tight double wing, dude, and just fucking toss it to McCaffrey and
You
Debo.
just gave OC a little football boner right there.
a little
His-
tiny chub.
His laptop just
Run.
went up a little bit.
Run the ball.
I'm always a fan of that. Anything else? Or are you guys about good?
Nah, covers it for me.
All right, man. Go ahead. You go ahead and close this out.
All right, everybody. Thanks again for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and appreciate all those Eagle fans out here watching, so I can hate on you guys for just a little bit.
Hey, you still have that? You still have beef with that guy? Is that he's still coming after you?
I don't even know who that guy is, but he watches the videos.
That's my boy right there.
Hey, shout out to OC's boy for watching. Thanks for watching, man.
Boy Ryan.
Yeah, I had a baby Ryan.
Say Mariah? What?
Ryan.
Oh, I think said Mariah. I was like,
Nah.
oh, okay.
All right, man. Well, this was fun. I'll catch you guys later.